everyone! If you clicked onto this video, you'll know that this is a Yuno Gasai makeup tutorial. Now, before I get started with the actual tutorial, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of the support you guys have been giving me on my first ever YouTube video. It really means a lot to me that almost 150 people at this point in time would subscribe to my channel with just an introduction video. And as always, if you're interested in seeing what I do with my channel, then be sure to hit like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into the video. I'm going to put on my wig cap and my costume and I'll be right back. Alright, now that I have my cosplay and my wig cap on, I can get started with makeup. First, since I can see out of them, I like to start with my contact lenses. These are the Intense Pop Rose from Oh My Kitty For You. Now, how I like to put on all of my colored contacts is I use these little tweezers and this little applicator that they usually come with, and I put the contact lens in the applicator and then I put the contact lens in my eye. Now, putting on colored contacts can be a little bit tricky at first, but what helps me is looking into my mirror and pulling down my eye like this so that I can tilt my head down slightly so you can see a lot of the white part of my eye, and then I place the contact lens right where that white part is. Oops. Right where that white part is. And while it's in there, I lift the lid up, I look up, and then it's in. Well, first things first, I like to start with a primer. Here I have the Maybelline Baby Skin Primer and the e.l.f. Poreless Face Primer. I like to go in with the e.l.f. Poreless Face Primer, usually all over my face, and then the Maybelline Baby Skin right here in my T-zone where my pores are the biggest, and I'll swatch both of them on my hands for you guys to see. Here I have both of them swatched. The e.l.f. is the top and the Maybelline is the bottom. The e.l.f. is a thinner consistency and it looks white in color, but it goes on clear. And the Maybelline is a thicker consistency, kind of like a silicone gel. So I like to put that thicker one right in my most porous areas. So this is how I would apply it. I take the e.l.f. primer and I put it on just the general area around my face so I can get a nice even coverage, and then I just start to blend it in and rub it into my skin so it gets nice and smooth right here on top of my lip and especially on my forehead since that's a pretty big area to cover. Still, I rub that all in, and once it's all incorporated, then I'm going to go in with the other primer. Now, instead of directly applying this to my face, I like to take a little bit of the Maybelline one onto my finger, close it up, and then rub it in between two of my fingers so I get it evenly on each, and then I look into my mirror and I rub it right in this really porous area. So it's a lot thicker right here, but it really blurs those pores for me so that my makeup can be really smooth and kind of airbrushed. This next step is completely optional, but if you're like me and you have a lot of breakouts, especially if you're a paler person and you can see a lot of this redness all over your face, I like to go in with a color correcting cream. This is a LA Colors concealer for color correcting that I got at my local drugstore. Any color correcting concealer will do. It doesn't matter if it's cheap, expensive, as long as it gets the job done for you. Now with this, I like to take off the top and squeeze just the tiniest bit out, and I like to apply it right where my redness is, kind of in a really direct area. So you can see I'm getting all of those like major red patches, but I'm not worrying too much about being super precise. I just want to cover up that general area, and once I'm done covering that up, I like to take my finger and just lightly tap it in so that it's blended out enough so I can cover it with a concealer or a foundation. Now that I'm done blending in, you can see my face does look a little bit green, but a lot of the redness that was there before has been very minimized. Now we can move on to foundation. I use the L'Oreal Paris Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation, and for this foundation, it says that I need to shake it up, so I give it a nice good shake. And as for application, it's a pump. So I pump a good amount directly onto my face, and this next step will explain why I do this instead of taking it on the back of my hand, because it makes it a lot easier. Now I will take a clean paintbrush so I can use this back part of the brush to basically scoop up and smooth out the foundation on my face so it's a nice thin layer, because this foundation does seem to be very breathable, but it's like a medium buildable coverage. And I do like myself a good medium coverage foundation because I don't really like to wear super heavy foundations, but that's always up to you what kind of foundation you choose. This is just how I apply this specific foundation because I find it works the best for me. And once I apply it all down like this and I have everything smoothed out, evened out all over my face, I take my damp sponge that I just put under some water. Always use a damp sponge because it minimizes the amount of product that gets sucked back into your sponge and gives a better application. So I blend it out all over my face. I tend to avoid the eye area because I save that part for concealer. So I don't want to add too much product over there, so it could be getting a little bit creasy. I just blend, blend, blend until my whole face is just this one smooth color. See how it's a nice medium coverage, but if I added more layers, it would definitely build up to a full coverage. But now, my skin tone looks nice and even, except for like a little bit of my breakout spots, but you can't cover them always completely, especially if it might be raw skin, which you should never put makeup directly over because that's not good for you. But here's my foundation all blended out. Moving on to concealer, I use the Maybelline New York Instant Age Wind Eraser. Now this concealer has a little bit of a silly applicator. It's kind of like this sponge looking thing. Mostly you'll find concealers with a dip in or maybe even a pump. I just like to take this under my eyes and dab it along with the applicator because it's a very brightening concealer. Right here in just these eye portions I like to do, and then I put it up here so it kind of gives that lifted effect, maybe even a little bit on top. And then I like to go right up in this little T-zone. Now with this product, I have to twist it to get more of the product out. And now I'm just going to put a little bit on the tip of my nose and then some on my chin, and it'll really bring you towards the center of my face and just brighten up the whole look. Now blending it out, I take the same damp beauty blender, but this time I'm going to be going towards the thinner section up here. I'm going to look into my mirror, I'm going to pinch it just a little bit and then start dabbing and blending it out outwards so that it goes from this inner corner right here outwards. So you can see I've got a nice seamless blend just over my eye, a little bit of priming, and then I do that on this side as well, just blending it out so it's nice and smooth. This part usually takes pretty quick since I'm just blending out some concealer. And then on my chin, and now my face is brightened up. As for this next part, I thought I would sidetrack a little bit and just give you guys a quick tip. If you're prone to being a messy person with your makeup, I recommend either not wearing the costume while you're doing the makeup or wearing something over it so that just in case if you spill anything, it won't get on the costume and potentially ruin your look, because we will be working with a lot of powders in this next part. The next step I take in applying my base makeup is setting the base makeup I have on my face with a loose powder. This powder is the L'Oreal Paris Hydra Perfect powder in the shade 916. And when you open it, it comes with a little powder puff, but I usually just set that to the side since I don't really like to use the powder puff. I take the top and I put it back on, and I give it a couple knocks so that I get some product out. That's just about the amount I use. And then I take that same damp sponge and I dip it into the powder. And see, this on the back is a lot of powder to be using to set my face, usually just my under eyes. So I take it and I dab it on the back of my hand to just smooth it out and get a lot of that excess off. So when I actually go in underneath my eyes, it doesn't look too cakey and it just makes it nice and even. As you can see, I have a lot of shine right here. So once I add this powder, you'll notice that that shine gets nullified like right away. So you can see this where that used to be shiny, this is still shiny, not shiny, still shiny. So I just like to use the powder to make my face more matte and to make sure my makeup doesn't really go anywhere. Now that my face is all set, I like to go in with some blush. This blush is from the Sailor Moon X ColourPop collection, and it is called From the Moon. It is a pressed powder blush, and I just like to take a fluffy round brush like this and dab it a little bit inside and tap off the excess. And as for application, since I want to give the character that I'm doing, Yuno Gasai, a more rounded look, I take this part of my cheek, this little section, a little bit under my eye, my finger goes, and then right where my nose ends, and I get that right on the apple of my cheek, so it gives it this nice rounded look as opposed to putting it up here, which would lift my face. Now that I have it on that particular section, you can see that it kind of just makes my face a lot more circular instead of a lot sharper or angular like it would have been if I put it up higher. And if you'd like, I also go in with a little bit on the bottom of my chin and the bottom of my nose just to accentuate this feature. Now that's all I use for my base makeup routine, so we can get into the eyes. Starting off with the base color I use for my eyelids, from the Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon palette from the Sailor Moon X ColourPop collection, I go in with the shade Moon Castle right here, and I pick it up with a fluffy brush, tap, 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 and then I tap off the excess so that I can avoid fallout, and I just apply it on my lid in a sweeping motion. I'm not too careful with where I put this since it is just the base. Take some more, tap, put it on the other eye, and that sweeping motion right where that crease is, but since the brush is big enough, it really fills out that lid. And now I take it up again, tap, and I like to go under my eye as well because I like the fullness that it gives, and it just really evens everything out. You always want to make sure that you're putting some kind of eyeshadow under your eye, since it really pulls the look together and makes your face a lot less flat, especially if you're going for a round character. Just take it and I applied it to the underside of my eyes, and here's the base of my eyeshadow. Now for some of the smaller details, I take the Sephora I Love palette and I take this middle shade right here, this kind of like brownish, warm brown shade. I tap it off, I close my eye, and I go right next to my eyelid, like right next to like my top line where my eyelashes are. I kind of just buff that out so it gives a lot more dimension. So you can see the color on this eye is a lot more pigmented on this eye. I'll just do the same thing over here. This is just for like a nice mauve kind of natural eyeshadow look. Right up in that crease. And then what I also like to do, like I did with the color before, I tap it off and then I go under my eye, right next to my waterline, right on that lower eyelid, to define that shape even more, that round look. So you can see the dark really brings a lot of attention to the eye. I'll just tap and do the other part right here. And there we go. Here's what I like to think of as a kind of hack. If you can see on my eye, you can see that that edge is a little bit too sharp and it's not as clean or airbrushed out as I would like it to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Powder Foundation, and I'm going to take that same small blending brush and I'm going to pick some up on the brush, tap it off, There's a lot of excess since it is a powder foundation and not an eyeshadow. But what I'll do is I'll just take it and I'll ever so gently just tap, tap, tap around that edge so it just diffuses it and makes it look a lot less harsh. So the powder foundation just makes sure that you've got a nice, clean, soft edge instead of a really harsh or rough one, so you don't have to worry about cleaning up with any kind of eyeshadow or removing any excess. It just really helps. Now that the base eyeshadow is done, we can move on to my favorite part, which are the shimmers. There are two shimmers from the Sailor Moon X ColourPop palette that I really like to use. The first one being Silver Crystal and the second one being Silver Millennium. I like to take Silver Crystal onto the top of my lid, and here I'll have that swatched for you. It's a really nice light pink shimmery shade. You can see how reflective it is. And as for Silver Millennium, I like to take that onto my lower eyelid to give it that pop, and it's more of a white. So you can see this one's a lot more pink and this one's a lot more white, and I just like to apply those to my eyelids. So what I like to do is I'll just pick some up on my finger and I'll close my eye and I'll just apply that directly. Since I've tried applying it with a brush, but I feel like it doesn't come out as shimmery, and you can just see the difference with how much brighter that shimmer has made my eyelid. I'll just take it right on here and I'll do this side. And now for my lower eyelid, since I use Silver Millennium, I take it up on my pinky finger since this is a lot smaller, and I just squint my eye like this so I can apply it evenly, and it just brightens up the look. Do it on the other side as well. Here we go. Now, taking a break from eyeshadow, I'm going to be doing my nose contour. Now, what I like to do, I like to take a flat, round brush like this. You can see it's pretty skinny, even though it's a little bit large at the top. And I'll take a shade from the Everyday Nude LA Colors mini palette. This one right here that I'm pretty sure was labeled either lit or crease. Either way, it's a nice, cool toned, kind of light brown, and I'll tap off some of that excess. And what I like to do is I like to line it up and just start slowly making a little line right around my nose in a long U shape. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, we're going to be blending it out. As you can see, it's added a lot of dimension back into my nose since it was looking pretty flat after I put the foundation and the concealer on. Take it right up into my eyebrows, and I just kind of start smoothing it out. Now, if I see that this side is a little bit darker than this side, I'll just take a little bit more on my brush and I'll go in more over here, try and even that out. And afterwards, I'll take the area of the sponge where I picked up the setting powder and I'll just gently tap, tap, tap along it. And there's my nose contour. I also like to highlight my nose, so taking the same Silver Millennium I used on my under eyelids, I pick that up on my pinky and I go right here near the top of my nose, right in between my eyes, and then right on the tip. I don't go all the way down so it doesn't look kind of streaky, and if it leaves a little bit of a cast, you can't really tell, but there's a nice little amount of nose highlight. Now we can move on to eyebrows, where I've run into a little bit of a problem. As you can see in the background, here is the wig for Yuno Gasai. She has relatively light pink hair, and as we can see, my eyebrows are definitely not light pink. They're pretty dark, so what I like to do, I like to take some of this Mehron Clown White face paint. It's a cream-based face paint, so it's not water activated, and I take it on this silicone little beauty blender, and I take my spoolie and I run my spoolie through it so it coats nice and evenly in like a thin layer, just to prime my eyebrows for any kind of color I'll put on them. I look into my mirror and I start combing backwards against my eyebrow hairs to really get that white face paint in there so I can make them nice and ready for any kind of pink I'm going to put on them. And you can see the difference. The white I've applied to this eyebrow has made it a lot lighter than this one. So you'll know that the pink will definitely pop out a lot more instead of me just using my natural eyebrow color. Now for the eyebrow color itself, I'm going to be taking this very well-loved shade right here from this very old Morphe palette I have that I do not remember the name of currently. And I take this little angled brush right here that I've cleaned off, and I just tap, tap, tap in there so I get a good amount of product. Tap off the excess so I don't have any fallout. And then when I look at my reference and I look at my face, I just start gently swiping it on top of where I put the face paint so you can really see that color. So you can really see the color of that eyebrow. And once you start to run out, because you run out a little bit fast when you're applying it to the face paint, you just start smoothing and smoothing and smoothing until you have a formed eyebrow. And I take some more for the other one. I just dab on that tail and I keep going until I have 2 decently shaped eyebrows. Now that my eyebrows are done, I can move on to my lips. I use 3 different products for my lips. For the first part, my base, I'm going to use the Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink in the shade Loyalist. And then after that, I'm going to be putting a LA Colors cream lipstick in the shade Candied on top, and then finishing it with a LA Colors moisturizing lip gloss. So how I apply the first part is I take out my liquid lipstick and I apply it down the center, a little bit right here, right where that Cupid's bow part would be, down to the middle in a V shape. And then that's a good amount of lipstick for the base. Now how I blend that out is I take a Q-tip and I start buffing it out over my lips. It doesn't have to be super clean, but make sure that you stay relatively inside of your lip shape. And for the top, I buff it out with little taps. So I tap, tap, tap it in, and I tap, tap, tap it in over here. And if you want a bigger look, you can blend it right over that middle and just buff it out at the edges nice and smooth to give that kind of airbrushed effect. So it gives you a fuller lip without it looking like you've overlined it, so to speak. Now I'm going to take this cream red lipstick that I showed before, and I'm just going to tap that in the middle of my lips so it gives it a nice ombre effect. Tap those together so it's not too red. And after that's done, I'll finish it off with the gloss, where I'll just take it and I will tap it on top just to finish off the lip look. And if you did a little bit of overlining or airbrushing it upwards, you can take that gloss a little bit on top of your lip to kind of solidify that bigger effect that we just added. Now that that's done, all that's left for us to do is the rest of the eye makeup, which includes eyeliner, mascara, and eyelashes. What I currently use for my eyeliner is the NYX Epic Wear liquid eyeliner in the shade Brown. I like to use a brown liquid eyeliner because I find it's not as harsh as the black ones. But what I do is basically I get a good amount of product on the little brush and I wipe off the edges so it's nice and clean. And I take a small handheld mirror so I can look real close about what I do. And I take it and I just follow the shape that I want the eyeliner to be in. I go nice and slow from the outer corner of my eye, and then I take it from the inner corner of my eye and just slowly drag across the top and start connecting the two lines so that it gives me an easy wing. I just fill that in right on top. And once I have the shape that I want it to be, then I finish it up. I can move on to my bottom eyeliner. I did the other wing off camera just to make this process go by a little bit faster, but for my under eyeliner, I'm going to take the black shade from the Hot and Smoky LA Colors mini palette, and I'm going to take a very thin angled brush and just run that through that black shade and tap it off. I'm going to look into my mirror and I'm going to start drawing from the outside corner of my eye and filling in a little underneath shape to make my eyes look a lot bigger and more animated, just like the character. And I take it right under the center of my eye, right where my pupil would be on my under eyelid. I just start connecting the edge right there to give that false lower eyeline effect. I just round that out, touch it up a little bit, but once I feel good about it, then it's all done. Now that the under eye has been drawn, I'm going back in with the NYX Epic Wear eyeliner in brown, and I'm taking this and using this, I'm going to draw on the lower eyelashes that I do for most of my cosplays. Taking that small mirror again so I can focus in on what I'm doing, being very careful. I draw out little lines just underneath my eye. Being very still, go right up to that end so they all follow along the line right there. Now that I'm finished drawing on my lower eyelashes, it's time for some mascara. I use the Thrive Liquid Lash Extensions mascara. It is black, like most mascaras are, and the applicator looks like this. I don't really know what that means, but I just apply it like I usually would, or like anybody usually would, but I do my top lashes. I take from the base of the lashes and I just give it one nice coat because I will be putting fake eyelashes on top of this. The point of putting on this mascara is just to blend the two together as much as possible so that you don't get that awkward white gap in between a natural eyelash and a fake eyelash. But what I also like to do, I take a little bit of the mascara just on the tip and I do my inner eyelashes right here so they can blend into the bottom eyelashes that I have drawn on and basically finish off that little part of the look. You want to be very careful with this step because you can easily get it on your skin and make annoying little mascara dots that you have to clean up, but I think it came out pretty clean. Now it's time for the final step of the makeup look itself, adding the false eyelashes. I got these off of Amazon as a gift for my friend like a couple Christmases ago, so they are very old and very not very good. I should probably get some new ones, but they work for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the eyelashes and I'm going to take it in between my fingers and I'm going to take off the top to my eyelash glue and just apply it right there to the band in a nice even coat. And I'm going to, after I apply this, let all of that glue dry down so that once it's dried down and tacky, it sticks to my eye a lot easier. Because what makes applying eyelashes pretty hard for most people is that they don't let the glue dry down long enough so that it kind of falls off and it's awkward and it's slippery. You really want to make sure that you let the glue on the eyelash dry down. Now that you can see that the glue on the eyelash has basically gone clear, that means that it is dry. Well, not dry, but more so just tacky and easy to apply. I like to apply my eyelashes using this eyelash tweezer I got off of Amazon, And applying the eyelash, I take it and I kind of curl the band so it fits nicely around the shape of my eye. And using the handheld mirror, I look into it, I look down, and I line up the corner of the inner part of the eyelash to the inner part of my eye and lay it down nice and even. And then I take my fingers and I pinch it and I just pull so that I get a nice even application with the eyelash so no corners are sticking up. And then I just push up and the eyelash is on, easy peasy. Now my wig is on and here's the finished look for my Yuno Gasai cosplay. Well, that's it for my Yuno Gasai makeup tutorial. I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see what I do in the future with my content, then make sure to subscribe. That's it for now, so toodles!